Let's ride!
All right, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Welcome back to Pathways with the New England Free Jacks. Today I'm joined by two wise men of the East Coast Conference, Stephen Lewis and Andrew Douglas. Steve is a two-time USA Rugby Coach of the Year. Has been involved with Jamaica Sevens, Old Blue New York RFC, Army West Point Women's, Collegiate All-American Sevens, and as a USA Rugby Congressperson, as well as, I believe, currently RUNY's acting GM. Is that right, Stevie?
Yeah, most of it, yeah.
Near enough. Cool.
Near enough.
You can correct me in a second. And then we've got Andrew, who's been head coach of New Zealand Schools, assistant coach at Waikato, consultant with the Chiefs, head coach for Biella Rugby Club in Italy, attacking backs coach for the Toyota Shuttles, and now Old Glory DC head coach. So, gentlemen, thanks for jumping on. Obviously, we've got Andrew from lockdown in New Zealand, and Steve just back from his little escapade in Mexico, mate.
Guilty as charged.
How are we doing?
Recruiting, Steve? Did you recruit any players from Mexico?
I'm very familiar with the Mexican Sevens programs, but no, that was not the purpose of my trip on this occasion.
Good stuff. So, yeah, gentlemen, off-season, it's been a long one. Let's talk a little bit about that process. Obviously, you probably had a review period for your teams. There have been some turnover in terms of your roster. Tell us about that sort of period, how that went, how long that took before you got your 2021 roster, if it is finished, sort of thereabouts. Either or, maybe Andy, if you want to start, mate.
Yeah, so obviously disappointing to see the season ended as it was, but very understandable in the same breath. So after that, we sort of did an internal review of where we were, Tom, with a number of things, and being a new team, we obviously made mistakes in that first year, and there's things we wanted to do better, and we're pretty honest about those. So we've looked for new facilities for training and for playing. We've changed our roster a bit. We've tried to keep the main core of our roster. We're really happy with the culture we had, with the players we had. But we needed to strengthen up in certain areas, and obviously set piece was a big one for us. It was pretty obvious our scrum wasn't good enough in MLR, and it was hard to launch. And I think we conceded the most penalties of any team, but basically those were mainly scrum penalties. So there were areas we had to fix up in order to be competitive. Because I think that the league's only getting better, the rosters are only getting stronger. And I think if you stay with your status quo, you're basically going backwards. So we kind of realised that, and we've tried to thicken up our pack, basically, just get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. I hope we've done that. I think we've done that. But at the same time, we still want to play that same way we play. You know, we want to play with speed, with width. We want to play on gain line and keep attacking teams. So I was finding that balance. I've been able to do that, Tom. So we've been pretty busy in that regard. As John Manson, our operations manager, who came over from the Scottish Rugby Union, and myself have been basically doing that. We had to let go some front office staff because of financial times with COVID and things like that. So John and I have done that. And our roster's basically done now. We've possibly got room for one more. I'm still sort of hedging my bets a little bit on that one. But yeah, I think we've done pretty well in that off season, Tom, and I've actually enjoyed it. You know, I've been coaching, you know, on full time for a long time, so that little refresher and break to reflect on where you are, it has been pretty good, really.
Yeah, I guess kind of like ourselves last year, you had a full team to recruit, whereas this year, you know, just to be able to tweak it and make, you know, a few little changes must have been sort of a little bit easier for you in terms of that process.
Yeah, dead right. I mean, most of the players I knew, I did a lot of homework on every player we had, but until you actually get them in your camp and you watch them play, you never know everything, if that makes sense, and you still really don't. I mean, every one of our players was a great man. They're good men, really bought into the culture of things, but at the end of the day, you're always trying to get better, and so we had to make some hard choices, some tough choices, and to release some players who I've got a lot of time for and still respect greatly, but this is a business, and so you got to make business decisions at some stage. So it sounds a bit harsh, but that's the reality of it.
For sure. Yeah. And then Steve, mate, you have a very good understanding of the domestic player outlook and what rugby looks like in this country. So kind of to that sentiment, RUNY brought you on at a point throughout this year that I'm not quite sure when that was, I believe. But tell us about your involvement with RUNY and sort of how that process has gone with the recruitment. Obviously, you've been involved in that as well as the grassroots and community initiatives.
Yeah. So interesting for our team last year was really a team that the coaches inherited, right? Greg McWilliams, Marty Veal, they kind of inherited those players. So we did the same thing. Obviously, you did a pretty comprehensive evaluation of even the abridged season, and we wanted to make some changes and we wanted to make some upgrades. So both Greg's very good connections in Ireland, Marty across New Zealand, Japan, and so we felt we had a good grasp and good connections, and we wanted to retool it. So we kept the core, the American core of the team, the guys like Fawcett, Hanko, Breakley, the guys we wanted to retain, and then we looked to upgrade around that. So it was basically done by about June, July, and then with just a couple of little slots to fill in still. So that's the frustrating part. You put this team together, you're excited about it, and you see some of the signings in other places, and there's definitely going to be an uptick in quality just looking at these rosters. But it's just a case of frustration. We want to get on with it, and play. So that was our process, and coaches had a great deal of input into it. And so it will be a different team, essentially their team. So they'll have to win.
It was kind of an interesting thing, wasn't it? That a phenomena, I guess, that, a lot of us sort of had our rosters sort of sorted by, July, August, and then you've got a massive 6-month period until the season, begins. And you've got some teams that sort of went and knocked it all out early and got that all out there and sort of began to build momentum, whereas you've got LA now just sort of getting started. So that was sort of interesting to see unfold, wasn't it?
Yeah, and also, still some implications to come, right? Some of the tournaments finishing and, Mitre 10 and what have you, and potentially injuries, and then potentially people visa issues. So, I mean, there's going to be a little fluidity for all of the teams. The best laid plans of mice and men. We're going to miss a couple here and there. So it's not totally done, but mostly done. Yeah.
For sure. Nice. And obviously kind of the purpose of this call is to discuss the academy systems, and the silver lining of our abbreviated system was sort of that we got more time to take a step back and have a look at our regions. I know for yourself and myself, Andrew, our appreciation of the landscape was probably not quite as great or in-depth as Steve's. But we got an opportunity to sort of look at rugby at a grassroots level with the high school collegiate system, the club system, and work out how we can best assist those areas. If you guys want to go ahead and tell us, we've all sort of had a slightly different approach with kind of the same end goal, I think, in mind with what we're trying to do with our, let's call it an academy system or grassroots initiatives, community initiatives. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing kind of over fall, summer, Andrew and Steve, in your areas.
Yeah, so our regions, it's a little bit strange in terms of that we've actually got some very good high school teams, especially within DC. Gonzaga have been, competitive nationally for a while now, and teams like St. John's are quite strong, Georgetown Prep. But then most of those kids go away to college or leave our region, and our club competition, and I'm probably going to insult somebody here, but it's pretty weak, to be honest, the club competition in our area. I mean, Steve's probably got a pretty strong competition up here. The Blues are obviously a strong team, and you've got the Mystics in New England, but we haven't really got a team like that in our area. So there's a number of reasons, I think, for that. One is coaching, the availability of good coaches and good people to drive those programs, and two, the athletes themselves are still basically a number of them in a mindset of I'll train Tuesday, Thursday, have a jog around, and then I'll play Saturday, and then I'll get drunk Saturday night. And I think we're trying to change that mindset a little bit with a number of the players, just to be a bit more professional in their approach to it. So we're starting at an under 18 level, a high school level with boys and girls, Tom, and we're trying to not just upgrade them skill-wise, but in terms of how to approach rugby to make them the best players they can be. We still want them to have fun and enjoy the spirit of rugby. I think that's really, really important. But we're just trying to progress them as an athlete, as a person, and on the school side of rugby. So we've started sessions at Segra Field where we're going to be playing our games. We do that once a week. We were, before COVID shut us down again, just in the last week, going to run nutritional programs. We've got S&C programs running. We're going to do mental strength and mental skills types programs with them. And we still intend to do that come January. And then we're looking at a middle tier as well, what we're calling Young Glory, which is those people who have just finished college or young people who really now see a a way for rugby to give them a career path, so to speak, or a bit more drive towards rugby. So they might not be necessarily the best players in our region right now, but we believe they have potential to play MLR rugby. And so basically it's round about an under 23. We're not going to put an age on it. It'll be a younger group who we think can possibly prosper through to MLR, and we'll put focus on that as well. So that's been our drive. Our big drive has just been that under 18 program. We have a junior program as well, where we try and reach 500-600 kids if we can, and we've had a great buy into that with our area, and Tim Brown runs that Pathways type program, and that's about getting kids involved in our sport, getting it fun and getting exposure. Our high school one was sort of starting to taper a little bit more, if you can imagine a pyramid type setup, and we've involved 50 kids, that's total. Over 50 kids now. We had 110 come to the first combine. We had to close it off because of COVID numbers, but we had 140 in total wanting to be part of that program. So that excited me a lot. We'll run another one in January, hopefully, COVID willing, and then we'll move into that young glory type stage of building up that next tier of hopeful potential MLR players, Tom. So I've really enjoyed the process, actually. We had to start it from scratch, and when it's yours, you kind of own it a lot more when you've got to design it and build it. And yeah, I'm still getting to know the landscape, Tom, to be honest. I wouldn't say I'm all over it just yet. There's a lot of learning there for myself and John and members of Old Glory. So there's also been politics involved with clubs. I don't know what it's like in New York and New England, but being neutral, I think, has helped me. I'm not associated with any body or anything in particular. And so I've been able to take all that out of it and not involve personalities, but what's best, I think, for rugby. And so hopefully, touch wood, that will show benefits later on.
Man, well done. It looks very good. The content's been phenomenal. The girls' stuff's been really good to see. It looks very good in Segrafield. I know both Steve and I will be very jealous of you guys having such a fantastic facility down there. That's
yeah. Look, we've been lucky. DC United have been fantastic partners for us, Tom, and it's a great field and the perfect size for MLR, 5,000 people, a great VIP area. But on the girls, it was funny. The first combine, we had only 8 turn up. And I said to them, look, we're going to continue this no matter what. We've got 8 of you. We're going to start it. I said, but if you know there's other girls out there who have potential to be really good athletes and play really good rugby, let them know. The next week we had 30. And the girls were saying that they were scared they were going to be the only one to show up to this group. And as soon as we sort of let them know it's a safe, enjoyable environment, the numbers just flooded in. So we were really excited about that, Tom.
That's great. And Steve, you can sort of probably attest to this, mate, but I believe there are 21 varsity women's programs around the States currently, and there've been another couple pop up in the New England region. So it's definitely a vehicle into college and into the collegiate game for girls in particular. So that's been an area I know specifically up in New England. We've been we see our position as a good role to knowing a lot of those coaches. We can help those girls in that transition into the college game and hopefully develop their skills so they're in a position to get into those schools. And Stevie, mate, you've been a man on a mission down in New York and even further. Mate, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing over the past few months. Obviously, you understand the landscape, slightly different to ourselves, although we are learning. Talk to us.
Oh, the interesting thing, I've been to all parts of New Jersey and Connecticut I never knew existed. So, we had a pretty comprehensive plan to re-engage with the community, right? Both at clubs, colleges, and high schools, and that got knocked on the head. So this fall. So basically, we just took the view that we would make ourselves available to anyone and everyone, and we'll come out there anytime free of charge. So we did, and actually, I enjoyed it. Got to places and connected with mostly high school stuff, people that I never met. So it was a success on that front. I think we had about 22 different places. So that was good, and it was all we could do. Going forward, we're very conscious that we see a series of partnerships. So obviously we're working with Rugby New Jersey, Rugby New York, and Rugby Connecticut, as are you. Those are the 3 main youth groups. So we want to be complementary, not competitive. So we're always conscious of what they're doing, and we want to just help them, complement them rather than anything else. So with them, and also with an organization called Play Rugby USA, which is in the city, in New York City, there's a lot of great work in sort of socioeconomically challenged areas. So those are our kind of youth partnerships. Our involvement there is we're going to sponsor the high school state championships. We're going to sponsor all-star teams, and And from that, we'll create a RUNY under 18 team. So to us, it's about getting coaching skill in there, not trying to run their show and then just trying to offer them something at the end. When we flip to the academy, what we consider the academy is really what I consider MLR potential players. So just as Andrew has mentioned, we see that as roughly 18 to 23, post high school to 22, 23. Similar sort of age group, similar sort of concept as Old Glory. Once again, we feel that it should be targeted towards June and July. We don't want to mess with colleges. We don't want to mess with players' existing affiliations and loyalties. So we feel that these are things we tack on, and we have a short, sharp season, 4, 6, 8 games sort of after the end of college season. That's our philosophy around it. Slightly different in different places, but we're very conscious of not stepping on toes. We want to work with Old Blue, AC, White Plains. We want to work with the Empire Union. We want to work with the existing youth communities, and we want to work with existing colleges.
Fantastic. I guess that's sort of the mutual zone for all of us, is that we all agree that, we're here to be complementary and additive, not, something that's going to take away from, obviously our organizations. We're not a club, we're not a college, and we're not a high school, we're none of those things, and we don't intend to have competition that conflicts with any of those schedules. So like you say, it probably leads quite well into the next point. What do you anticipate at those age group levels and at sort of your U23, for us, the independence levels, that competition structure will look like moving forward in an ideal world?
I think Steve's, he's nailed it. He's dead right. We don't want to get into competition with high schools, and so I think that June July window is the best one. I totally agree there, and I think that's when we'd look to run a competition for Old Glory against the likes of New York, New England, Atlanta, hopefully, possibly New Orleans as well. There's probably going to be some debate around how that looks like. I think it'd be great to take these young people on the road and play curtain raisers to the main MLR game, give them that exposure to understand what that's like. I mean, when I was 18, I was lucky enough to play against Scottish schools for Waikato on what was then Rugby Park, and it's a memory that's lasted me this long. I played against the likes of Dottie Ware in that particular game, and I still remember it. So I understand those moments, can be life-changing for some young people, and just get them excited about rugby, sticking to them for life. So I think that would be my preferred model, is that we take these people on the road with their MLR sides and play as a curtain raiser. Now, I know there's cost to that. I understand that. There's talk of a tournament, which I think is a viable option as well. And I think, Steve, myself, you, Tom, and Atlanta and New Orleans will probably debate this and hopefully find the best way forward for rugby. Whatever way we go about it, as long as we're providing a clear structure for these kids. And I think they do need competition. I think academies are wonderful things, but I think at some stage you've got to try and reveal the true rugby player, and I think competition is important for that without thrashing them. So that would be how I would see it. What we'd like to do, which is a change for us in DC, is actually run an inner-city high school league if we can. I think schools like Gonzaga, St. John's, those bigger schools will keep their own competitions, which is fine. But we'd like to get kids from the inner schools, the underserved communities, involved in rugby, expose them to rugby. So we'll look at running a league with those high schools, and we'll put our players in as coaches and try and work with the teachers in those schools. And if we can promote that to build on and get those kids involved in June, July as part of the academy, I think that'd be a great thing.
Fantastic. How do you see that being staffed and managed? Because obviously, the MLR season is relatively labour intensive from our point of view in managing the senior team. Do you see this as something that towards the end of the spring high school season, you're talking to high school coaches, or you've got players or coaches that you value talking to high school coaches, and then from that point, maybe you're allocating players with those teams, doing some training sessions, working into that competition window? How do you see that looking?
Yeah, it's probably one of the toughest things, Tom, is getting good people, or right people, I should say, probably in those places. Our players are keen to help and coach, and obviously you've got to balance their program because it's, they've got a full-time job already. And we've got some good support networks around now. We're sort of just picking people that we can help to use and support those players. It'd be nice to grow the coaching depth in our area. And I see that as a pretty important role if we want to grow rugby in DC, Virginia, Maryland, is to grow the coaching base in our zone. So we've started to do that. We've introduced new coaches to our academy, people that I see are enthusiastic and show potential. And that's, people like Brianna Kim, Tongueli Fanueli have come through really, really well. And I think we'll put use those types of people through those inner city programs as well.
Nice. And Steve, what's your take on that, mate?
Yeah, and so we were going to sort of progress this year to training mornings and early afternoons in order to free up players to be connected with schools. Previously, we were sort of guilty, I wasn't involved, but we were, in my estimation, of showing up, jersey, photograph, bugger off, never to be seen again. So there has to be consistency of contact. So for me, it was about having one player, one program, one season. So you want the kids to know that player, the parents to know that player. And that's how we wanted to be embedded with these schools rather than just shooting back and forth doing a thing here and there. And being able to train in the mornings would allow us to do that. Andrew hit a big nail on the head for me. Something I'm pretty passionate about is coach education and the fact that there has been none in this country for 4 or 5 years. So to that effect, we've got plans to do some coach education seminars beginning of the season. We're going to allow coach shadowing opportunities throughout the season. We've actually, Greg McWilliams has been doing a really good one on online every second week with National Collegiate Rugby, which is a big college organization. So I personally see that this coach education is a big thing, and it's vital. And in the absence of a national governing body doing what they're supposed to do, it falls upon us in our area to pick up the slack and get it done. So I'm big on that.
Nicely done. Yeah, that's sort of, it's similar to what we've been doing here. We've sort of coined every region within New England a different name, and we've got to every region and held a tracking day there, looking at, obviously, for the main purpose being to increase participation drastically, hopefully, and then provide developmental opportunities for us to identify not only players but also coaches. So we've been through 400 odd athletes and as a coaching staff decided whether they're a player of regional interest at this time or not. And then same with the coaches and pulled together a group of 10 to 12 coaches from the region, the wider region that we value as being up to learning and being active in that next level. So it's certainly, I think, Steve, an area where USA Rugby can definitely prosper is in that we've got now 12 professional outfits in USA, across USA, that can hopefully get embedded at that local level and impart their knowledge and coaching resources and so on, like you guys have been doing with NCR. Yeah,
I think it's important. You touched upon a point there. I mean, you guys has been tremendous seeing what you're doing. You're a busy man, clearly, but from my perspective, the identification of talent, right? When they're under 12 and they're under 14, it's just numbers, participate and have fun. That should be the focus. So we're not too worked up about IDing talent that young. I think when they progress naturally through their high school into their high school team, 16, 17, 18, that's when you start tracking folk. But I think at the younger ages, it's just get a ball in their hands and let them have fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree with you there, mate. Cool. So I guess another one here is within, actually, no, let's throw it back to, we've just had the jersey release. Let's go a quick take on that, on the jersey release. What's your thoughts on obviously you're donning the flag in quite a striking nature, Andy. And then Steve, you guys have got a secondary logo that's just been thrown out there. Talk us through the new designs and your take on it.
Well, we obviously we're Old Glory, which is the flag, and last year we were plain blue and white. Looked sharp, but I thought we needed to jazz it up a bit. So part around our war room, our changing room, we've got these posters with that flag across. It's where we put our key points, like our values, how we want to work as a team, etc., etc. So I said to John Manson, our operations manager, just splash that across our jersey. Let's have a look and see what it looks like. And we had the DC flag on the shorts. We got the sublimated stars down the side as well. So we've got noticed, put it that way, Tom. I think a lot of people love it. There's the odd person that doesn't like it. That's understandable, but at least it started a conversation. I see apparently on social media the team back home are telling me. So I'm really happy with it personally. I like it. I think I actually like New York's strip. I think New York's done a great job with their strip as well. I've had a lot of comments about New England, Tom, that people love the traditionalist view of the New England strip. So I think I was a bit worried about the Dallas Jackals. It was more like a chocolate mint to me, but I think again it's different. It stands out, and I think that's a good thing. I think conversations around those are a good thing. If it gets people excited about MLR and rugby, that's fantastic, and I think that's what it's done, which is really, really good.
Yeah, good stuff. And Steve, you've got the neighbourhoods on your home jersey, or is it the away? Tell us.
Yeah, the away one, actually, the orange one. So they've got neighbourhoods, Upper West Side, Battery Park, so it connects to the city that way. And unfortunately, you couldn't see, the resolution wasn't sufficient. The home strip, those are what are known as Gustavino tiles. So this is a very idiosyncratic New York architectural feature. Ellis Island, Grand Central Station, the shape of the tiles. Right. But you couldn't really see it on that reveal, but you'll see it when it's fully fleshed out. New logo was really to the initial logo we still have. It's on the back. It's retaining it, but it was felt that we needed to, who are we and what do we do? And we felt that this secondary logo has the New York, explains New York, and it has a rugby ball. So that was the thinking behind it. So we're pretty happy the way it looked. I thought most teams looked good. I had the fortune to have breakfast this morning with a certain Mr. Pengelly, and I berated him for his ridiculous sponsorship of you as number one in all things. He's got to remember which city he lives in, but he was a big fan of the New England jersey, as I think I'd probably say that would be the social media favorite, you guys. So hats off to you on that one.
That's Ollie Engelhardt and Alex Megleby's work. But I think last year we nailed the home jersey, and the away jersey was just a bit of an afterthought. Whereas this year they thought, let's put a collar. Collar was a hit. Let's chuck that on the away one as well and just tidy it up a little bit.
You've got to remember that Pengelly is, he's a product of a 1980s rugby in Yorkshire, right? So if he likes it, maybe it's not the thing.
There you go. Nice. And Andy, mate, you just one thing when I was reading through your press release on the academy system you guys have rolled out, you talked about the 6 pillars of building out your academy system, sort of per New Zealand Rugby Union, and what they sort of stand by. Talk us through that, mate, because I thought that was quite good, and that what you're trying to get through to these players, and that it's not only the tactical aspects.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we've basically just stolen that straight from New Zealand Rugby. Tom, it's what I was raised as a coach on those 6 pillars, so it's comfortable for me. I think it covers aspects that players need. So unashamedly, I stole it from New Zealand Rugby because that's what I worked with when I was working with young kids through New Zealand schools and the Chiefs development type teams. That's what we push. So technical is obviously one side of it, the physical side of it, which we want around strength, conditioning, speed, etc. But I think where we probably miss is the mental skills to be a better player. And certainly when I played, I never had anyone tell me about how to prepare for a game, how to keep myself in that good space. And we've all been through that stage as a player where you get yourself in a really good space and you're playing really well. And then for some reason, a couple of months later, you're not playing as well. And it's how do you get yourself back into that good space again? And how do you prepare for a game? And what's going to muck up your preparation for a game? So those sort of traits, I never, as a player, had much. No one gave me much insight into that, and I wasn't probably smart enough to be able to grab it myself, to be honest. But I think we've got a lot more knowledge now, and so to be able to give these young people all those tools to be the best players they can be, I think's vitally important, and it just gives it a more holistic approach to making them a better person, Tom, rather than it all comes down to win or loss or whether you do this job or not this job. It's you can actually now give them a broader spectrum and hopefully they can succeed in many ways. And if they're having a tough time, there's ways to get to work through and processes to get through, and without just having to wing it themselves. So I think that's really important for a young person, to keep them in the game, to keep them excited, but to just keep them feeling good about what they're doing in rugby.
For sure. I guess too in the MLR, obviously, I think one of the pillars was professional life or something to that effect. Obviously, that's so vital in MLR with the, A, the salary amounts, and B, the nature of our contractual breakdowns, and that we've got a lot of part-time players, and the professional life and work-life balance is so important, or work-rugby balance rather is so important. How do you find yourself managing that? We'll go, Steve, your thoughts on how to best, you talked about your day-to-day I guess, structure, daily, whatever you want to call it. Tell me about how you sort of manage that professional element with your team.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when we're not a fully professional league, right? As you say, we have a mix, but we're moving in that direction. So we sort of made a fairly conscious decision, probably have a skinnier squad, but more full-time players. Because we felt last year, the Tuesday, Thursday, it's like club plus rather than professional. And that was limited because of the amount of guys who were part-time players. You want them, you need them. There's financial aspects to all of this. You can't have everything you want. But we're probably going to have less numbers, but more full-time guys to try and get away from that. We've also got some of our part-time guys we've already discussed with, can you be available to train at these given hours in the morning? And so most of it seems to be working out. It's probably only a couple of players that are now unavailable to us because we made that change. So that's kind of how we're managing it. We're trying to go to more full-time guys.
Nice. Well done. And I guess a final one here, just from a somewhat selfish level, how are you keeping it? Obviously, it's a massive off season. A lot of players are playing in the Southern Hemisphere. A lot aren't playing. A lot have been to Bermuda. How are you sort of keeping the cohesiveness of your teams and building excitement with the 2021 season just around the corner? Both of you.
Yeah, so we've been in regular contact with our players. We had a Zoom call with them a couple of weeks ago as the whole squad together just to go through plans for the new season. Obviously, we've got a few new faces we want to introduce to the wider squad. Our strength and conditioning guys have been sending programs. We've actually started working with a couple of guys already in DC, which has been good. So, like you say, we've got a number of guys commitments in New Zealand and in Europe. So you got to be careful about how much you're putting pressure on them when they've already got their commitments to rugby. Our local guys, we've actually had them down helping us coach with the academy. So we've had the Jack Ascaros, Mike Dabulus's, Threaten Palamos, Sean Hartigs, Dakota Worth. They've all come along to those academies and helped us out with them, which has been good for them to understand, processes around their game. So, yeah, because they're not getting paid, Tom, so you can't demand too much of them. But I think just showing them some love and showing them where we're trying to head is really, really important to keep them involved and to keep that buy-in. So that's how we've been doing it, sort of passive-aggressive, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, broadly similar. Same thing. We got some guys all over the shop, right? And so we have actually started under Ian Jones as our S&C guy. So he's done they're already being monitored. Some playing, some doing their thing, some in Bermuda. So same thing with that. And then Greg McWilliams, Marty Veal, obviously trying to instill the culture. So we have sort of every 2 weeks, we're starting to have player calls. They have different little projects and what have you to do. Because they've got to get to know each other, right? Because as I said, it's a newish team. So similar stuff, S&C, different people at different levels. And then you've got to try, just as we are now, trying to sort of stay connected. And through Zoom is the only way. In Zoom we trust. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just let's get on with it. I'm champing at the bit, I just want COVID to disappear and the season to start. That's where I am.
Agreed. I think the big takeaway there is that the league is getting significantly stronger each year. It was a quality product last year that was out on the field. So let's hope that we can get more than 5 games in the 2021 season and get a full bang out there. Get the proper show going. So last bit we do, guys, is just a quick fire week to week. We typically go your favorite Free Jack and why, but we'll extend it to favorite MLR player and why, just for the first of the 2. Quick fire questions to wrap it up. When you're ready, feel free to go.
I'll go Api Nakatini. He's already won 2 MLR championships, and he just brings a little bit of X factor. He can offload, he can cut guys in half defensively. He enjoys a pineapple lump, so being a Kiwi, that's always a big plus, Tom. But he's that player in our squad that just gives everyone confidence around him. And I was chuffed that Seattle were prepared to release him because there's no way I would have let him go at that stage of his career because he just gives our squad so much confidence. They call him mana, which, as you know, Tom, back home means strength, means the Warrior's got mana, he's proud. So that's the nickname he's tagged on already. So yeah, he's my favourite player in the MLR right now.
Good stuff. He was donning the Old Glory headgear too, I see, at Bermuda. How good.
Yeah. Good to see. How good was that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to pick a New York player because otherwise I'll get accused of playing favourites. So I'm going to go for best character I've ever coached, Nate Augsburger, San Diego scrum half. Just the best work ethic out there. He's been dealt multiple blows, dropped, injured, bounces back, works hard. Great kid. Love him.
Yeah, completely agree with that. He's a legend. Very hard worker. And the final one, gentlemen, and Steve, you can't. What was that, mate?
Who are you picking? You got to pick somebody.
Oh, you've got a couple good ones down your way, and Butcher, hard case. You can't beat Butcher, and Breakley is obviously phenomenal. What he brings to RUNY, like to have those two as your backbones, just outstanding. I like a bit of the firepower that Old Glory have with Jace Robertson's doing a good job there. Danny Tusitala, couple good additions down that way. But I would have to go from our end. I would have to go Bodine Walker. I will go Bodine Walker. He's starting for Waikato at the moment, doing a good job over there, and he's just he's the chief of our team. He looks after the disciplinary section of the team, so he's doing a good job for us up in New England. All right,
he's doing a great Minor Cup season, isn't he? He's having a wow of a season for Waikato right now.
Oh yeah, he's going really well, which is great to see. There's a good number of MLR players doing really well in the Mitre Cup, isn't there? So it pairs nicely.
Well, it's good to see.
The final one is a stadium song for our Free Jacks playlist when you guys come up to play us. Now, Steve, you can't pick that song that's been humming around in my head with the every player announcement, that Built for New York song. Every time I see that, I send Greg a wee video of myself dancing to it, mate. But I'm going to block that one out.
I don't know. You're probably all blue eyes, right, Frank Sinatra? Start spreading the news.
Good stuff.
I'd have to go glory, glory, hallelujah.
Yeah, good stuff. All good. Well done. Well, gentlemen, thanks very much for jumping on. You're both good men. I look forward to seeing you in the near future, both with the senior teams and otherwise with the academy system. So keep up the good work, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
Tom. Good to see you, Steve.
Cheers,
Thanks, Tom.
Tom. Cheers.